Hello, hello, and hello again. I am super excited because today I get to have a conversation with Miss Debra Sullivan at Florida A&M University's CEDAR program. Now, before we get into our conversation, I just must tell a story about you, Miss Sullivan. So, in the spring, Ricky too and I decided that we would visit Florida A&M University because he had frequented the university as a band camp student. So he wasn't familiar with the university in its inner workings while students were there. So we decided to spend 5 days on campus. And our first day, we came to your office and you welcomed us in and we sat in your office. And Ricky too had a set of questions that he had written out. Now, I had not seen the questions, so I didn't get an opportunity to proofread or edit them, but I heard him practicing them. So when he was speaking to you, I listened to one of the questions and I believed that it needed more clarification. So I interjected myself into your conversation with him and I said, oh, well, what he means is, and you turned to me and you said, I understand him. And tears began to well up in my eyes. And I literally fell in love with you at that point. Because as the mother of a child with disabilities, several things I want. I want him to be seen, I want him to be heard, and I want him to be listened to. And you gave us two things in that moment. You empowered him to use his voice and know that he would be heard and understood. And you told me as mom that there are people here who will listen to what he has to say and he will be heard, seen, and listened to. And that set the stage for a wonderful time at Florida A&M University because each door that we walked into, I let Ricky to lead and we had a marvelous experience. And that told me everything I needed to know about you. It told me that you were an ally. It told me that you were a person who works along with families to ensure that in time, our children will be able to navigate the world independently. So I don't do resumes, I don't do bios, I don't do titles, I do people. And thank you for your service. And I know that our families are about to be tremendously blessed with information. So are you ready to dig into this?
Yes, and thank you. That was such a wonderful story.
It was true. And you did it. So thank you so much for that. And also, I have notes, and you notice what I have them in? I have my CEDAR notebook that you gave us.
A little parting gift, yes.
St. Powell. All right. So first, let's start off with the CEDAR program and its overview. Like, what exactly is the program and its functions?
Okay, so the CeDAR or CEDAR, you can say either one, the abbreviation, but it stands for the Center for the Disability Access and Resources. And what we do is we provide supports for students with disabilities at the university college level. And those supports come in a variety of ways, but primarily through academic accommodations so that they can be successful in the classroom. I like to say it's 20% us and 80% student to be successful, right? Because they have to do their part too, but we help them learn to advocate for themselves, use their resources that are available on campus, and again, provide those academic accommodations. They're mandated services. So these are services that have to be provided on any campus or college. This type of service, we fall under two federal laws, Section 504 of the Rehab Act and the American with Disabilities Act. So all colleges and universities have to provide some kind of support for students with disabilities.
Boom. So I love that. First of all, that's information about your overall function. And so now I want to kind of dig into the weeds so that we can really understand what's going on, because we are trying to create pathways to college for families with children with disabilities. And Ricky too was introduced to Florida A&M University as a middle schooler through band camp. And one of the things I quickly realized that time was of the essence, even as a rising ninth grader. So, what are some of the things that you would suggest for families of children with disabilities do as early as middle school if they believe that college is something they would like to pursue for their children and family?
Yeah, so you want to build independence as much as possible, because when they come to this level of their education, they have to have a lot of independence. Um, it's very different support than what they're used to at the middle high school level. Even the accommodations will be different. Um, public schools fall under what's called IDEA, right? That's a different law for students with disabilities than what we fall under. When I talked about the laws that we fall under, I didn't say IDEA, right? So it's very different. We don't have IEPs or 504 plans. We don't have meetings every year to talk about goals and objectives. A lot of those things that you're used to as a family and a student being provided in K through 12, that all falls under IDEA.
Okay.
So that, I think that's one of the biggest things for families and students to understand the difference between what you're going to receive and how you receive it at the university college level versus at a K-12 level.
Boom. I love that, because one of the things that I've done with Ricky too at a high school level, we really have a script because I teach him about advocacy and negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a script where he, like let's say he's earned a grade, like I've earned this particular grade. My goal is to go to college. Therefore, I want to fare better in this class. Do you have skills or strategies that I could use to get a better grasp of the information? And then he, thanks the teacher for, their service.
Right.
So something similar to that starting as early as middle school?
Yes. Yes. They need to be able, because you're not going to be here going with them to class, right? Parents have a hard time understanding that part too, right? You're not going to be here advocating for your child in the classroom with the professor. They need to be able to do that on their own. That's why part of our mission statement is for them to understand their legal rights and responsibilities and become a strong advocate for themselves. We intervene if it's a significant issue, like the professors not giving them the accommodations that they've been certified eligible for, and the student has already talked to them and without a positive result. We'll intervene and advocate, right? We'll step in, but we always encourage the student to advocate first, and then we'll step in if needed.
Oh, I love that. Now, we talked about getting them started early. So then, now one of the things that I've realized now, Ricky 2 is my only, and I thought that I was busy as a toddler. I didn't know busy until I got a high school student, because there's so many deadlines, there's so much timelines, and you have to get those things done at a particular time in order to be college ready. So what are some of the things that you believe that families need to do if they are interested in going to a university and a program such as CeDAR or just that timeline?
So one thing to understand is that most public universities and colleges, you have to meet the regular admissions criteria, regardless of disability, right? And so, because you're supposed to be otherwise able to attend and meet the criteria. So a lot of families and students don't understand that they have to meet the regular admissions criteria. They have to go through the same process of application, submit in your transcripts, and like in Florida, where we are, we've never waived the SAT or ACT, even during COVID, right? So here, any public university or college in Florida, and there are many more across the country, will require ACT and SAT scores. So it's really important to take the test multiple times, right? Because most of the time you submit all of your test scores, and we look at the best score from each attempt. Um, and then you want to, if they have prep courses for it, et cetera. I have found for some reason, this is anecdotal, I have no research, but a lot of my students do better on the SAT for some reason than on the ACT. But I always advise take both. Or if you did really low on the ACT, you may want to try the SAT. But the expectation generally is that you meet the regular admissions criteria. There are programs in some colleges and universities, like Access Summer Bridge is for any student that maybe is deficient in one area. It's a summer program, they're probationary. And then, you can go through that in the summer, and if successful, continue on in the fall. I happen to have a different program for students with disabilities. I'm the only one, I believe, in Florida at any public or university or college that have this specific program for students with disabilities. So if they have a documented disability and they didn't meet the regular admissions criteria, it could be in all three areas, right? It could be all three areas of the test, the ACT or SAT. It could be the GPA and the tests. You didn't meet the regular admissions criteria, I'll consider you for this program. It's a 6-week program. It is probationary, but I bring the students on to campus. They live here for 6 weeks. So there is a cost. The families have to pay room and board and tuition. And they start taking courses. They'll take 3 courses and earn anywhere from 2 to 8 credits and start earning a GPA. They have mandatory activities they participate in, like study hours. We do social activities so that they can start building relationships. We bring in a lot of resources to the students so they know what's available on campus. We teach what's called a student one of the courses they take is a student learning skills class, SLS, which all students have to take at some point, but we teach our own students that course in the summer. And if the student is successful, which means they passed all their courses, they have a 2.0 GPA or higher and attended all the mandated activities, and they abided by the student code of conduct, then we recommend matriculation in the fall. So it's a program that a lot of my students don't test well on the tests, or they're just a few points below, or their GPA may have been impacted by different things that happened to them in high school. It's a way for them to get into a 4-year university without having to go to a community college or and transfer in later, et cetera. It is a small program. I only take up to 40 students, and it's a first come, first consideration. So students, I start accepting students in October, as soon as they do their application. And everything's in place, right? The test scores have to be in place. The transcripts have to be sent to the university and in place. So as long as all those things are in place and I have the documentation of their disability, then I can start considering for our program.
Boom. Now, that program is the College Study Skills Institute?
Yes, CSSI.
Okay. So now, I just want to ask a couple of clarifying questions. I'll just walk through the process and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
You're saying that a student would do their application with their GPA, their ACT or SAT scores, and they would then submit that application to the general university.
Yes.
They may get a letter that says they've not been accepted.
Yes.
And then if they have a disability and they've received that letter, then they can contact the CeDAR program and see if they are eligible for consideration under your College Study Skills Institute.
Yes. Now, they don't have to wait for the denial letter.
Oh, okay.
if they know, if you know, like you've taken the test multiple times, you know the test scores are low. There's been some improvement maybe at each time they've taken it, but they have not quite meeting all of the criteria. You can, the person can email me and ask me to pull their application for consideration for the CSSI program.
Boom. So they could apply for the university and then contact you directly and say, I've applied, my child has a disability. I would like consideration for the CSSI program.
Right. As long as they don't meet the regular admissions criteria.
As long as they don't meet the regular
right.
admissions.
If they do meet the regular admissions criteria, they can apply for our services once they come to the university and still get the services like academic accommodations, things like that. But this is a special program for the students that don't meet the regular admissions criteria.
Understand. And one of the things I want to say, good people, is that Ms. Sullivan returns emails quickly.
I try.
Oh, seriously, that is the most beautiful thing, to send an email and to get a response. I almost want to do a praise dance because that doesn't happen often. But I appreciate that, and families know that it won't go into the email abyss. You will get a response.
Yeah, and if for some reason I don't see it, and that can happen, you just email me again or call me. I don't get offended.
Boom. I appreciate that. Now, you spoke briefly about support with faculty and academic accommodation. So you're saying that, like, Ricky too and I have this thing called big deal, little deal. And little deals are things where he's telling me and I may give him some advice, or he may just be venting. And then big deals are things where I'm like the cavalry, he's calling me in because this is something beyond what he can do on his own. Mm-hmm. So are you saying that the CeDAR program is there for big deal things?
Right, definitely. Things like I said, if a professor is not providing the accommodations for some reason, we would step in, especially if the student already reminded the professor, hey, I'm supposed to get this for, let's say, extra time on tests and quizzes is a common one. And if they're not providing that and the student has reached out and the professor still isn't providing, then we'll step in.
Boom. Now,
and we also teach the students, though, too, about chain of command, right?
Right.
So, like, all right, the professor's not doing it. Who's the next person that we need to go to, right? The
right.
chairperson of the chairperson of that department.
And so that speaks to the self-advocacy that So I want to touch on that. So when you say that you're teaching them the chain of command, is that something that all students in the CeDAR program gets, or is that the Summer Institute?
Oh, that's all students. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, we have over 800 students registered with us.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear it. Okay, so when you teach them, are you teaching them individually, or you have workshops that they're required to attend to learn this information?
Well, we don't have. Well, sometimes we have workshops. I shouldn't say that, but most of the time it's individual contact that the students will reach out to us. We do send out things like reminders like, hey, it's the beginning of the semester, make sure you request your accommodations, even though they are supposed to do it every semester, because one thing they have to remember is accommodations aren't retroactive. So if you didn't request your accommodations and you failed a test, or, that's unfortunate, but that's the way it's going to stay, that you have an F for that test. They do have that's why I said, building that independence and accepting responsibility is important, because they're going to have to use that. We don't have case managers like they do in the public schools. We'll do mass email reminders, or we'll offer them a midterm check-in to see how they're doing, et cetera. But there is nobody that is going to go to the classroom with them. It's not that type of service, right? There's no aide sitting with them in the classroom providing support. And it's not required at this level. It's just not an accommodation that would be provided at a university college level. That's why I say it's very different. We don't, We're not contacting everybody's professor to see how our students are doing, et cetera. It's
Right.
they have to self-disclose. Like, we don't share information about the students with the professors. They get a letter saying the student is was certified eligible as a person with a disability, and here are their accommodations. But we don't say what the disability is or anything like that. That's up to the student.
Interesting. So that's like emerging adulthood. Whew.
Yes, yes. So that's why I talk about building that independence in
Right.
students early is vital for their transition, successful transition. And I think the more that students have been given that opportunity and that to build that independence and advocate for themselves, the more successful they are.
Boom, bang, pow.
And then I'm going to say another big one:
Okay.
time management.
Woo.
Time
That's a
management,
big one.
because we don't do an accommodation for time management.
Right.
Right? And a lot of times, like a lot of students come in thinking that they're going to get extra time on all their assignments.
Right.
That doesn't happen at the university level.
Right.
Usually you walk into a classroom, you're handed a syllabus, and all your assignments are there with due dates. So
Right.
what does it become now?
Oh, when I
It
was
becomes a time management issue, right?
right. So now when I was visiting the center in the summer of 2021, I
Mm-hmm.
saw a lot of students in like little cubicles studying.
Yeah.
So during that time, they are able to come and have this prescribed place to get those studies done.
So in our office, we have room for students, and every office is different on every campus.
Okay.
I have to say that up front. So some of the things that I tell you are true for everywhere, like
Okay.
federal laws, et cetera, and what we're required to provide. And then the level of service might be different at different universities and colleges. So it's always important to find that out ahead of time. Right?
Right.
When you start looking at colleges and universities, find out what their services really look like.
Wonderful. I love that you talked about the time management because Ricky too and I we've always had a cozy calendar, but I used to enter everything in for him. And just this last semester,
Yeah.
start entering his own things in his cozy calendar so that we can make sure that his week is organized so that he can get all of his activities done. And
Right.
he's done famously well. So I'm quite proud of that because that time management, unless you have those tools, sometimes there are so many things going around that it's easy to miss some things.
A lot of distractions at the university level, and they're here on their own.
That is true. Lots of distractions. I was a student at
We are
FAMU.
not we are not here 24/7 watching over them.
That is true. So
Right.
so party at a minimum.
Yeah. So you
But
got to but
approved.
there needs to be those conversations, right?
Right.
Start before they come to the university, not the day you drop them off.
Right. Because there's no
Right.
one to say, hey, you have work to do. Don't go out
Right.
tonight.
Right. And the schedule is different than high school, right?
Right.
So you have your classes either daily or every other day. Where at the university, you will have classes like you might have a class on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and different classes on Tuesday, Thursday, but you're going to have a lot of open time, right?
Right.
We're not filling it up with electives and, PE and art, music, those type of things, right? If you
Right.
take a course in music, it's because you need it as an elective or as your major. So there's a lot of time
Right. I didn't
that
even
they
think.
have available, and they have to understand that that time isn't just free time. That
Right.
there's so much time that you should be spent on studying and doing your work and things like that. I forget what the average is. I think it's like 2 hours for every credit you should
Mm,
be doing.
that's nice to know. I need to look up that because I need to make sure
Yeah,
I have my
there
basic.
is like a little guide, like, for
Oh,
that. And
boom.
another important thing for parents, for families and students to know is what other resources are available besides the disability services that are going to support the student, right? So like we have academic coaches for anyone on campus. As a matter of fact, my summer program, I make the students meet with an academic coach because they can meet with you every week if you want, and they'll be the ones that'll help you stay organized, teach you time management, learning strategies, things like that. So does your university or college that you're interested in have something like that? What is the how many tutors do they have, or do they have tutoring, and what does that look like? We offer tutoring in a variety of ways, including online, that's accessible to everyone. Counseling services, are there counseling services available to students on campus? Those are all important things to consider too when you're looking at universities and colleges and planning for that transition.
Boom. Now, I just said that Ricky too is in the middle of taking his ACT test for the third time because we did something similar. What you said, take it many times. So what we did, we took it in his sophomore year. So that I could get a baseline of one, how he fared, and two, what the conditions were like, so that I could lobby for the accommodations that he would need to be successful. One of the accommodations that we have is pre-recorded. So he gets his ACT recorded and he listens to it as he's taking the test. That's assistive technology. I noticed on your website that you said that there are assistive technology options available for students who are at FAMU. What are some of those things?
Yeah, so we have actually CeDAR provides one assistive technology program for everyone on campus, and it's speech to text and text to speech capabilities. It's called Read and Write and Equatia. One's for reading and writing, one's for math. But they're very they do a lot more than just read something for you, right? Or you can start talking at types. It does have those basic capabilities, but it has a lot more than that. You can create study guides. There's built-in dictionaries, that will teach you how to say the word, hover over it with the definition. If there's a picture that's applicable, a picture will pop up. It'll read websites, PDFs, anything basically. And like I said, it has a highlighting tool where you can highlight in different colors and create study guides. You can create vocabulary lists, all kinds of things. And the math does the same thing. The math is really interesting to me because I'm not a math person. It has thousands of equations built in. So you just say Pythagorean or just start typing it in and up will come that equation. You can speak math and it types it like an equation. So if you said y squared plus 2 squared over xy, it'll come out exactly like that, like an equation.
Wow.
So they're very neat programs. There's lots of little 1 or 2 minute videos that explains every button on the toolbar. It's like a floating toolbar on your screen. So I keep trying to, make sure kids know that that's available and try and get them to use it. Then we also have a note-taking app, Glean, that it records the lecture and it chunks it, and your notes match the recording. So you know exactly how they line up, and you can color code it as to this color is important. I want to go back and listen to it. This color that's not something I really need. So you don't have to waste time on trying to listen to the whole recording to find what you need, and other things. It has other features. So we do try to provide different assistive technology for the students.
Oh, wow. That sounds...
The Glean right now is only for students with disabilities, but at some point I would like to get it to the whole university.
Oh, wow. I'm tremendously impressed. I had not heard of that. So now I want to talk about where the money resides. So are there any scholarships or awards that are specifically for individuals with disabilities?
Well, we do have some. I can't say that every university does. So this is only pertinent to us. And I know that other Florida public universities have this scholarship as well. And that's a Theodore Vivian Johnson Scholarship. It's for students with a documented disability. They have to be a Florida resident. That's one of the criteria. They have to be enrolled in 9 credits and pass 9 credits every semester. But they can get up to 3,000 a semester for that one.
Oh, wow.
I also have a Tony Joe Mason scholarship that doesn't have the residency requirement, but it's for physical disabilities, like hearing, seeing impairments, mobility issues, things like that. And that's 1,500 a semester.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Now,
And then, they can qualify for a lot of different scholarships that are offered through the scholarship portal at our FAMU Foundation.
oh, okay. The scholarship portal at the FAMU Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
That's good information for all families to know.
Right.
Now, do you have any like real life examples or success stories, not necessarily, not names, but just ways that you've seen in students, the CEDAR program impact them positively, leading to their success?
Well, I think that, any student that graduates and using our services is a success story, right? And we have lots of those. I think for me, we have lots of success stories as far as we help students, and there's been times when students came and they had a bad semester, right? We help them so now they're on academic mourning or probation. We're trying to avoid suspension, but we will take a lot of time to walk them through what they need to do and help them either do retroactive withdrawals or to try and get some of those grades off of their GPA so that, that it saves them from having to go through probation or eventually being suspended, things like that. So we really do work with students to make sure that they're on track. And if they're not, here's what we can do. Because, it happens. A lot of students come in, especially their freshman year, and they might not, they might bomb the first semester or the second semester because of distractions or things like that. Or sometimes it's because a traumatic experience happened while they were here. So we'll help. And we always, want to make sure they know what resources are available. Like if you need counseling, we're going to get you set up with counseling. If you need financial aids, what they call satisfactory academic appeals, progress appeals, we're going to help you get that. If you need to do a term withdrawal because something happened and you just weren't available for classes, we're going to help you with that. So those are all success stories. They get through those processes, they learn from their experience, and they go on to graduate. I think the most impactful for me personally is the students that come in through my CSSI program. And to watch them go through, they aren't, like I said, they could be one of those students that had a bad semester and we help them through. But to see them actually come through and graduate, and, I have students that have come through that program that wouldn't be here, right? Without it, would not be here. They're officers in the Student Government Association. They're musicians that are, performing with the jazz bands or the band or, going on to be very successful and they have expertise in certain areas. I had artists that have come through and, going on to the doctor of pharmacy and being successful. So for me, those are my real success stories, right? That the students that wouldn't have gotten accepted into the university, but they came in and they showed what they're capable of. And with our support, they've been very successful. And I have a lot of those stories.
That gives me chills as a mom. As an educator, I appreciate that. As a mom, that gives me chills. So looking ahead, what are the future goals for the CEDAR program?
I always have, I'm always like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. Some of the things that I'm working on is building relationships with different companies to help my students with internships and being employed after graduation, right? We know the rate for a lot of students with disabilities and their employment percentages are lower
Right.
than somebody that doesn't have a disability. But there's been a lot of interest in students with disabilities recently, especially neurodiverse
Right.
type disabilities, and companies are very interested in recruiting some of those students. So I've started a couple of relationships with some companies that are going to be doing some workshops specific for my students throughout the year. And yeah, like if I had money, I would have like a in-house transition specialist, right? Somebody that actually that's what their job is, helping students with their postgraduate plans and goals. So whether that's employment or if it's graduate school, whatever it is, helping them, meet those goals. I find that my students tend to come to us for different services that really I don't have the personnel for, but like feel more comfortable coming here than to career services, right? Or feel more comfortable here than coming here to get support than somewhere else, in some area. So, we try to do our best trying to help them as much as possible. But, like I said, we have 800 students and 4 full-time people, counting myself. So, I do what I can, and employment is a big deal for me. I want to make sure my students are marketable and, are getting their foot in the door and opportunities like everyone else. So that's something that I've been working on, is building these relationships with different companies so that they can spend time with my students.
Well, I absolutely love that. Engagement and partnerships, that's my jam. So I am here. Yeah, and I just love the program and what it stands for and the opportunities it presents. So I am here. With that, we have one more question, and this is not my question. This is Ricky Two's question.
Where is he?
He has gone into the teenage abyss somewhere.
Okay.
And he told me to ask you, and why should people pick the CEDAR program at FAMU?
Oh, well, part of it, I think, is that we really are committed to service excellence. It is a logo, our motto for our university, Caring with Excellence with Caring, right? But we really are committed to it here. And we do it in a variety of ways. You mentioned that we respond to emails in a timely fashion. We take phone calls. People say, oh, I can't believe you answer the phone. Yeah,
Right.
I will do that. I answer the phone. I try to call people back. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that. None of us are. But we really are committed to being here for our students and our families. If it's not something in my purview, but you're asking me a question about something else on campus, I'm going to find you a person and a phone number to contact. People are used to me. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm on my computer. We're going to look it up. Let me give you these numbers. We have a pretty much open door policy as far as, students will walk down the hall. And if they'll come into my office, you know, and that's not a problem unless I'm on the phone. Then I'm like, okay, you got to wait. But and we're a student friendly office. You had mentioned this before, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit. We have a student lounge for students here in our office that they can come and relax in between classes, watch TV, have something to eat if they want to eat their lunch or whatever. We have a computer lab that they can go in and work in. They have study cubicles that they can go in and work in. They can print papers here or whatever they need to print, as long as it's not a book. You know, so we're all kind of like that. Just about everybody in my office can answer your basic questions. And if it's not something they can answer, they're going to find somebody that can. So I think it's our level of service excellence that makes us maybe unique in some ways. And I think that we, you know, like I said, we have the CSSI program that isn't available in most universities or campuses. And I don't know, you tell me, you were here visiting.
Well, I'm going to tell you, see, you don't want me to get started because I'm an evangelist. Because when I walk through the door, the first thing, as a mother of a child with disabilities, I've grown accustomed to living with a lump in my throat because I'm always on guard. I'm always on ready for environments that may not be particularly safe for my little one, and who's not such a little one anymore. But I also have 17 years of living in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And warm fuzzies, warmth, even though when you are in a welcoming environment and you don't have to pre-apologize for your child, as a mom, I feel safe. I feel like I can walk out the door and he'll be okay. And more than anything, it's that feeling. And when I walked into the center, I felt that feeling from the front desk personnel to the students that I bumped into. Don't get me crying on here. To being in your office. Just knowing that my child belongs and is wanted. And that's why he says he feels like he was born to go to FAMU.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, I'm not sure why Ricky too asked this question, because in his mind, the reason why you would choose the CEDAR program is because Miss Sullivan is the GOAT.
Right. I love that video he made. That was so cute.
And he says that like that's his real vernacular as it relates to you, because you gave him candy and you listened to his questions and you then gave him like a squeeze ball and all. So for him to walk into an experience and come out saying that someone is the GOAT, and we were in like what was like a professional meeting, that warms my heart. So that's why I would choose, because when my child goes to college, that will be a home away from home.
Mm-hmm.
That I want to know, while I understand that he's not going to be coddled as he was by me in the home environment, I want to know that he's not just dropped into the mean, cold world.
Right. And we encourage students, come here. The more you come here, the more successful you are in the beginning, especially. We are only, here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Like I said, we're not here 24/7 to watch over them. But I think that students know that they're welcome here. Like you said, we all really like students, right? And it doesn't matter what their disability is. It doesn't matter, where they came from. We just enjoy having them and working with them and helping them to be successful. So, yeah, I've been I've only been here 7 years, but I was in public school education
Really?
for 20 years. So yeah, I've been doing it a long time. And even before that, I was in early childhood ed. So
that's my area.
Yeah.
So Ms. Sullivan, you have given me more information than I anticipated. You have tremendously blessed the families with information that just could not be found in a website, textbook, it's not third party, it's directly from the source. Is there anything that we've not touched on that you feel need to be said?
Not that I know of. I can't really think of anything.
Boom. Because
We
this has
could
been
probably do a whole podcast on just the differences between, uh, services under IDEA versus the differences at the university level. Because I have a whole chart that I talk about at my orientation for the CSSI students when they come in.
wow.
But
Sullivans, don't threaten me with a good time now. I'll be on your emails trying to get that podcast. So don't threaten me with a good time.
you're funny.
Yeah,
So, but I mean, I would do anything that would help families and students. I'm all in.
I can tell, and it is greatly appreciated. Ms. Sullivan, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your expertise, and thank you for the service that you give to our students, and by way of our students, our families.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Boom, bang, pow, shebang. All right, families, you heard it here, the CeDAR program at Florida A&M University. I'm a rattler, so you can't get any better than FAMU in my book. So I'm going to throw my thing up as we say goodbye. Goodbye, friends.